Multiplying and dividing rational expressions. Steps. 1. If dividing, change to multiplying by the reciprocal. Keep, change, flip. Flip the second fraction. Factor. Factor out all polynomials. Cross cancel. Follow simplifying rules. Reduce anything in the numerator with anything in the denominator. Multiply numerators, multiply denominators, simplify if needed. Okay. So I'm going to look here and I'm going to see if I'm dividing. I'm multiplying, so I don't need to keep, change, flip. Okay. Factoring. I don't have any binomials, so I don't need to factor. Cross cancel. So I'm going to look at my 9 and my 18. Okay, which number can go into 9 and 18 is 9. So 9 can go into 9 one time. So that will become 1, and 9 can go into 18 two times, so that would be 2. Then x can go into x squared one time, so that is x. So I'll have 1x over 4 and 8x over 2. Okay, now let's reduce the other cross. So 4 can go into 8 two times, and my x remains. So now I'm going to multiply my top and my bottom. So I'll have 2x squared over 2. Now I can cancel out the 2's and just have x squared. X squared is my answer. Okay, let's look at this one. So I'm dividing, so I need to keep, change, flip. So I'm keeping the first term, I'm changing the sign to multiplication, and I'm flipping the second fraction. Now I'm going to cross simplify. So x to the third can go into 12x to the fourth, where this changes it, so we're subtracting the exponent, so 4 minus 3 is 1, so this will be 12x over 7x, and 21x squared over x. Now let's do the other side. So 7x can go into 21x. So 7 can go into 21 3 times, and x can go in at 1 time. So that would be 3x. So 12x times 3x is 36x squared. Okay, so let's look here. So I'm multiplying, but I have some polynomials, so I'll need to factor. So 4x over x squared minus 9. X squared minus 9 is a perfect square binomial. So that can factor into x plus 3 and x minus 3. And let's look over here. So 8x squared minus 12x. So 4x can go into both of those. So I'm going to factor out a 4x. So that becomes 4x and times 2x minus 3. So I'm basically dividing 8x squared minus 12x by 4x. Okay, now let's cross out. So our 4x's cancel out, our x minus 3 cancel out, and I'm left with x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. So those will be under 1. So my answer is 1 over x plus 3 and 2x minus 3. You can leave it in this form. Okay, so I'm dividing here, so I need to keep, change, flip. But I can factor this first one out. So this is a perfect square binomial, so that becomes x plus 6 and x minus 6. Then I'm going to flip my second term. So I can see here that my x minus 6 cancel out. So that's going to leave me with x plus 6 over 5x squared, all negative. Okay, so I can factor this first one here, or I can rewrite this one. So I need to rewrite this in standard form. So this will be negative 4x squared plus 4x. And then I'm going to rewrite this in standard form where I have x squared plus 9, and then I'm factoring out the negative. Okay, then I can factor this top part here. So I need to find two numbers that multiply together to equal positive 3 but add together to equal negative 4. So negative 1 and negative 3. Okay, then I can factor out a 4x here. Then I can cross cancel anything that is the same on both sides. So x minus 3 and x minus 3. And then I can reduce here. So 2x can go into 4x 2 times. So I'm left with 2. Then I have x minus 1 and x minus 1, two of them. So x minus 1 squared all over x plus 3. Now let's take a look here. So I'm dividing, so I need to keep, change, flip. Now I need to factor. So I can factor this part here. So I need to find two numbers that multiply together to equal positive 15 but add together to equal negative 8. And I can factor out an x on the bottom. So I'm left here with x minus 3 and x minus 5. And then I factored out my x, so I get x minus 3. And over here, I can factor out a 3x, so it becomes x minus 5. So then we see x minus 5 and x minus 5 cancel out, and x minus 3 and x minus 3 cancel out. So I'm left with x squared over x. So then, and 3x. So then that would be the same as x squared over 3x squared. So then our x squareds cancel out, leaving me to answer to 1/3. Okay, so let's try this one. So I'm going to keep, change, flip. So I'm going to keep my first, change my sign, and flip. Okay, let's factor out a 2. So my first term is going to be x squared divided by 5 times 2 parentheses x plus 2 over 2x and 30 over x. So now we need to cross simplify. So here, this is technically like x and x times x. So these x's will cancel out. Also, my 2's can cancel out. So then I'm just left with 30 and 5. But 5 can go into 30 6 times. So then I'm left with 6 times x plus 2. Okay. So this is when I have a binomial being divided by a fraction. So it's the same as 6x minus 12 divided by x minus 2 over 3. So we're going to do the same thing where we keep the first term, change the sign to multiplication, and flip our fraction. So then I can factor out a 6. So this becomes 6 times x minus 2. Then we can see that my x minus 2's cancel out, leaving me with 6 times 3, which is 18. Okay, let's try this over here. So this looks very confusing, but it's the same thing as x squared plus x minus 6 over x squared minus x minus 6 divided by x squared minus 9 and x squared plus 4x plus 4. So we're going to keep, change, flip. So I keep the first term, change the sign, and flip the second term. Now I can factor. So x squared plus x minus 6 factor into x minus 2 and x plus 3. And x squared minus x minus 6 changes to x plus 2 and x minus 2. X squared plus 4x plus 4 factors into x plus 2 and x plus 2. And x squared minus 9 factors into x plus 3 and x minus 3. So now we need to cancel out anything that is the same on the top and on the bottom. Okay, do I have an x minus 2 on bottom? No. Do I have an x plus 3 on bottom? Yes, so I can cancel all my x plus 3 and my x plus 3. Okay, do I have an x plus 2? Yes, I can cancel out one x plus 2 and an x plus 2. So I'm left with x minus 2 times x plus 2 all over x minus 3 and x minus 3. So I'll have x minus 2 times x plus 2 and x minus 3 squared because those two were left over. So that is factoring, or is multiplying and dividing rational expressions. The key thing to remember is your steps. So the first step is to, if you're dividing, to change, keep, change, flip. Second step is to factor. Third step is to cross cancel. Fourth step is to multiply numerator, then multiply the denominator and simplify if needed.